Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to another episode of 90 Day Fiancé. This is season 6, episode 2. I'm really sorry for episode 1 and the sound. Obviously, I went live and I had no idea you couldn't hear me because I wasn't watching any of the comments. But thank you so much for those of you guys who joined. Thank you so much for those of you guys who watched the video anyway and had a hard time hearing. I truly apologize, but that was the only way I was going to get my opinion to you. So it's what I had to do. My bad. All right, so let's jump into this episode. This one was a good episode. I think that we're building slowly, obviously, right? So we just came off the hot heels of what happened last season and before the 90 days, season 2. And so this is nice. Like, it's slow. We're getting introduced to these brand new couples. We know nothing about them. I was actually a little worried that I was going to feel very, very produced, but actually none of the storylines feel super produced right now. The only couple that I really foresee being an issue is Lita and Eric, but we'll get to them when it's time. Let's first start with Colton or Colt, I'm not sure, and Larissa. So Colton is 33, Larissa is 31. Larissa is from Brazil. She speaks English. She has a lot of expectations for Colt and what it's going to be like in the US. They met online because Colt was having a hard time finding love in the US. They decided they were going to meet up in Mexico on vacation. And while they were in Mexico towards the end of the trip, Colt decided that he was going to propose to her because he said that she checked off all the boxes on his list. But who knew that that guy would be attracted to this type of woman? She just seems like she's got too much body yaddy for him. Like she's just too much. The first scene we have is Deb, Colton's mother. Let's call her Deb. I mean, her name's Debbie. Let's call her Deb. So Deb is picking up Colton from work, and that's part of their really weird and possibly produced storyline that they have this old beat up car that she picks him up and drops him off to work every day. They live together. He's a software engineer. They have 3 cats. Like, they have just been so close ever since his father died like a decade ago. So he's a real mama's boy, and she does everything for him. She doesn't even think he knows how to make his own bed. So I think intrinsically that is a problem, especially because like he's a mama's boy, but he also isn't like taking care of the house. Like, I feel like they should be living in better accommodations. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like Colton is ready to have a family or take on a wife. He can barely take care of him and his mother based on that car they drive. And TLC is so shady with showing shots of that car. Girl. Deb is worried. Colton's worried. Colton's worried about fitting Larissa into his life with his mother because he recognizes that his life with his mother is a little weird and a little different, and it has stunted him and his growth and his dealings with women in the past, specifically and especially because he does not have a car. And he says, quote, "A man's first best friend would be his mother." And as much as my heart and my love for my future sons might make me go, aw, I think like, but there needs to be some kind of balance. And right now, Colt and Deb do not have any balance at all. So Colton is kind of worried about what Larissa's expectations are for Las Vegas. Obviously, he knows the stigma. He knows that when most people think of Las Vegas, they think of Sin City, they think of the Strip, and that's all. They don't even recognize that there's stuff around it, that it's like a regular city around that. And he's using all these words, and I'm just like, you know that English is your second language, and I barely understand the words that you're using right now. Chill. Also, I thought it was really weird that when his mom picked him up from work, like, he didn't drive the car. Like, he let her drive him home. Like, it's just weird. Very uncomfortable. I'm also very uncomfortable with Deb's eyebrows. Like, she is giving Ika a run for her money. Deb and Colton are having dinner, and they're talking about, hey, this is gonna be our last dinner together, and you know, how are things gonna be when it change? And Colton's trying to be like, yeah, mom, you know, when our doors close, you just don't bother us. And she's like, yeah, when my doors close, you don't bother me. And he's like, yeah, you know, if there's a sock on the door. And she's just like, oh, and I'm just like, I'm just uncomfortable with this whole situation. You know, like, they're also talking about where is Larissa gonna sit. So Deb is talking about how she's worried about fitting Larissa in as well, and how it can't be immediate, and that she's gonna need to be eased off of her son. That sounded weird. But like, she's gonna need to be like transitioned out of doing everything for him because it's gonna be her first instinct to do all those things. And I'm like, Deb, Larissa is moving in. There's no transition period. Like, you don't have any, there's not going to be a transition period, moment, nothing. Like, she's moving in. Your transition time is done. This is your last dinner with your son. Soak it up because it's gonna change forever. And she's like, oh, I'm okay with change. It's like he's slowly breaking up with his mom, but not really, because he hasn't actually moved out or figured out how he's gonna move out or when he's gonna move out. In the next scene, Colton is getting ready for Larissa to get there, so he shaves his beard, which is an absolute mistake. I know she wanted him to, and maybe she feels like he looks better. I mean, I was like, no, before, and now without the beard, I'm like, no! Then Colton also talked about his cat. Every time he brings up his cats, I feel like it is a producer situation. Like, why would you continue to talk about these cats? I mean, I noticed there were some of you who got very upset about the cat situation. I'm sorry that I'd let you down, that you are upset that I don't like cats, and that I think that men who have cats is kind of emasculating. I'm sorry that that hurts you. I really am. So Colton makes a comment in his confessionals saying that he has 90 days to decide whether or not he's going to marry Larissa. So they went through the whole K1 visa process. She got her visa, and now they're going to decide whether or not they should get married. I'm so confused. I thought that if you applied for the K1 visa, you have to go through all of this interview and all of this like rigmarole and provide paperwork and documentation to prove that your love is real, when they've only been together for like 8 days or something. So did they just show every single picture that they had on that time they met each other? Like that one time they met each other? Like, how did they get approved? This K1 visa process is really weird to me. So he's like not even sure whether or not he wants to marry her. They're gonna make the decision in the 90 days. So Larissa has a lot of pressure to be on her best behavior this entire time, which I think kind of sucks for her, especially because she's running up into a situation where she's not gonna be happy. And let's talk about that. So Colton goes to the airport in that rickety dinky car to pick her up, and he's waiting for her, and she finally comes out of customs or what have you, looking hot tamale, okay? She has got a high-waisted leather skirt on with a beautiful, like, asymmetrical zipper going up the side. She's got on her high taco sandals, you know what I'm saying? She is looking smoking hot, and he's over there like doing when he sees her. And the first thing she says to him is, "Where are my flowers?" And I'm just like, exactly, where are her flowers? Like, why haven't you like prepared fanfare for your fiance coming to the United States for the first time? I mean, even Jesse had something at the airport for Darcy. I don't get Colton. He's not romantic. He's not caring. He just doesn't know how to care for a romantic partner. And I think that's gonna be a problem. Like, she's gonna have to marry him real quick, get her green card, and then divorce him. And she said that that is her plan, except for the divorce part. But I added divorce because she needs to divorce him. Before they're even married, she's gonna need to divorce him. He's just gonna bring down her stock. He's just gonna bring down her whole being. Like, he's such a terrible host when she gets there too. She's like, oh, where's the Vegas sign? And he's like, okay, we'll go to the Vegas sign. And then they get out of the car and she's like, that's it? And he's just like, yeah, welcome to Vegas. Like, it's like he refuses to give her what she wants. He knows that when people come to Vegas, that they're looking to see the strip. They're looking to see the glitz and the glamour. Why didn't he take her to the strip? Why didn't they go have lunch somewhere? There's so many options. And he just takes her to the sign, and it's hot, right? And she's sitting in the car and she's talking about how hot it is, and he won't put the air conditioning on. I guess it doesn't work. And then he's like, roll down the window. And she's just like, but I'm telling you, like, I don't know what, she's trying to explain something to him, and like, he won't listen to her. He's just like demanding that she turn down the window. And I'm just like, why doesn't this car have automatic windows? Why can't you turn the windows down? Roll down the window. This is in 1998. Like, I don't have to live that life. You know what I mean? It reminds me of like the 1982 Volvo I had growing up. You had to reach over and like crank down the like, and then like if you wanted the back window, you had to do it before you even like. I don't. What is he paying for if he's not paying for a house and a car? Like, what are his video games? Like, what is going on? I'm just so sad for Larissa. And she's gonna be very needy. She seems like she's gonna be very needy. She has a very unrealistic expectation of what's gonna happen in the US and what Colton can give her. But this first visit, I was like, no girl, get on that plane and go home. Find you another American man, because Colton is not it. Not it. Okay, so let's move on to our next couple. So the next couple that we have are Juan. Why Juan? So the next couple that we have are Jonathan and Fernanda. I actually love Fernanda. I love her so much, even though the age difference between them is a little shady. And if Jonathan were my friend, I would make fun of him endlessly for being with her. Like, endlessly. Like, if he were my friend, I would be like, you are whack for getting a 19-year-old girl. But if that were the case, I would have to be upset with Ashley and Jay because it's the same age difference. Ashley's doing the same thing with Jay, so I can't judge Jonathan on that. And I love Fernanda. I mean, I really don't even register her as being 19. And if her family is okay with it, and he's obviously met her family and they're fine with it, like, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Even though the age difference is crazy. But like I said, I don't know. Something about it doesn't bother me because I don't feel like Jonathan went hunting for a 19-year-old. Like, I don't think that he's with her because she's 19. And I mean, maybe that all remains to be seen, but there are some guys who only want to date a young girl because they want someone virginal or want to feel like they're the only person to conquer and like all that stuff. And I think that it's great that he recognizes the fact that she's so young, and what if she decides that like she doesn't need him and that she's smoking hot and she could find somebody her own age and live her life and not have to be bogged down by being a wife and being, you know, in a relationship. Because like, that's a big thing for a 19-year-old to take on, being somebody's wife, having to take care of home. And then what if they want to start having kids? I mean, I know he's putting her into school and she's going to continue to do all that stuff, which I think is great. I'm really happy that she's going to go to school and that she's going to, like, you know, work on herself and work on her career. That makes me happy. So as long as that happens and her growth isn't completely stunted by being with this man, it's like great. I'm totally on Fernanda's side. She can't do anything right now for me. She can't do anything wrong right now. Okay, so they're coming off of the panty incident, and as we remember in last episode, Jonathan moved everything from his old apartment into this new house that he bought for Fernanda. He didn't go through any of his drawers, which I can absolutely understand, and there was some old underwear from an ex-girlfriend, which I think is crazy. But like, I can see it happening, and I believe him that it was an accident or it was a producer situation. And when either way it goes, it's good television. Okay, so they start to kind of rehash that conversation. Fernanda's sitting on the couch in full face, which I'm like, girl, thank you. And he brings in coffee and they have the conversation, and she's just like pouty and looking angry, as she should be, because again, as she keeps on reiterating, she came to the US for him. He's the only person that she knows in this entire country, in this entire city, on the entire block, you know? So he really, it's a lot of pressure on him to be there for her and find things for her to do to keep her, you know, busy. So in their next scene, they're meeting his friends, and that's where we see Danny again, his good best Judy. And we see a bunch of other friends, and like, they're sitting down, they're talking, and they're in North Carolina all of a sudden, even though I thought they were in Lumberton, Ohio or something. So they go to the house, everyone there has a super crazy accent, and Fernanda can barely understand them because she's like, they're saying like, hi Fernanda, and when she does that, I was dying. I was kickity cacketing because I was like, that is so how they say her name. It was great. That was a really good moment that the producers had her do the example of a Southern accent. And so all of a sudden they start to talk about Mexico and the wall, and she like says it from her perspective. Get it? She's also young, right? So she's talking about from her perspective, and I think that Fernanda is obviously privileged, right? They're obviously affluent in some kind of way. She met Jonathan when she was on vacation with her family in Puerto Vallarta. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she doesn't have the same experience as those who are dealing with the wall and all that nonsense, right? So one of his friends mentions about like how the Americans see Mexicans and like how they see them as like being criminals or being here just to make money or take jobs. And I was just like, wow, that's a really like conservative Southern point of view, because I know tons of Mexicans and there's no thought in my mind that they're taking jobs from anyone. You could go get a job too. So she's eating Southern cooking and she's like, girl, she got a plate full. I was like, okay, Fernanda, 19-year-old thyroid, you know what I'm saying? That 19-year-old metabolism. You go ahead and eat all that food. I wanted to jump in there and eat that fried chicken as well. She was talking about how, you know, her first night there and how it wasn't okay. And I thought she was going to bring up the panty incident, and she ended up bringing up the fact that she had to sleep on the couch, and they kind of made fun of him for sleeping on the couch. They're good peeps and they showed her a good time and she was comfortable, and I really liked that. So the next couple that we're going to talk about is Stephan and Olga. So this is an introducing Stephan and Olga. So what happened with Stephan and Olga? Stephan is 20 years old, and I think Olga's about the same age as well. She's from Russia. She came to Maryland or somewhere where there's a beach to hang out and to like be abroad because she's like a worldly, smart, you know, European young lady. And she meets this beach bum who's like, by American standards, low-key a loser, high school dropout, you know, mother kicked him out at 16, kind of just like a server and like isn't really doing much with his life, has a tumultuous relationship with his grandparents because of his like messy, immature ways. And they hang out one summer, and then at the end of the summer, they find out that she's pregnant. They only hang out with each other for a month and a half. I'm like, dang. And then he's like, oh, we only had unprotected sex that one time. And I'm like, but did you like release in her? Like, I don't understand why people say that. Like, there's sperm in there. You left them. You left the sperm in there. That's what happened. And she's like young and fertile. So she ended up getting pregnant and going back to Russia. And he is like freaking out because she's been by herself in Russia this entire 9 months, and his father died when he was 7 years old, and it really rocked his life. And he wants to be a good dad. He really does want to do well by that baby and bring that child to America and raise him and be the best dad that he can be. He's never been on a plane. He's never been outside of the country. And so he's decided he's going to go to Russia for the birth of his son, which is a little like hard to do because he would have had to like take off like 3 weeks of work or something, right? Because you never know when the baby's gonna come. It's not like here's the due date, the baby comes on that day. It's just kind of like an open-ended thing. And then like, don't you want to be there for a couple of weeks afterwards to help her and to like be there to like bond with the baby a little bit? I don't know. It's kind of weird. So I don't know how long he's staying there, but he has a really good conversation with Jima. And his grandma is very like, hey, let's talk about this political climate. Apparently he had no idea that anything was happening between the US and Russia until he looked it up and saw that was going on. And he was like, uh-oh, it might be really hard for her to get her visa because of all the things that's happening with the hacking and all that stuff. And Jima was like, yeah, like, you gotta look into that and see what's going on. And they start talking about his dad, which is Jima's son, who passed away. And Jima is, he tells his Jima that he wants to name his son after his dad, and Jima starts to cry, and I thought it was really sweet. And I love that his grandma was there and was like being a good sport about this whole filming thing and having this conversation. I really like it when people like agree to be on a show and like do the show, They decided to get married for some reason because he felt like it was the right thing to do and the only thing to do. So they're going through the K1 visa process, which I'm like, how do they even have any money? Who is sponsoring her? Like, what is going on? I need the details of that. Okay, so the next couple that we're going to talk about is Kalani and Asuelu. So this is what I've been anticipating with Kalani and Asuelu. Her hair is still luxurious. Her face is still beautiful. On this day, it's Kalani's 30th birthday. And she is going to the airport to pick up Asuelu. Her mom is actually staying at the Airbnb with her. She gets there and he is like, gets off the plane and she like waves him down and he comes over towards her and he takes off his shirt and he does that dance that we have seen in all the promos. And she is standing there like, as would I. I would be absolutely beside myself. That I don't even like to take selfies in public, especially with other people. Like if a group of people or me and somebody else and they want me to take a selfie, it better be like quick. I do not like that kind of attention unless I'm actually and actively doing it myself. Like, I can't be with somebody if they're all of a sudden gonna get loud and do something. I will literally walk away from, how many friends I have walked away from when they have been trying to take excessive selfie pictures in public when it's like, I'm like, no, I'm out. Nobody's gonna stare at me do this. Or if I'm with a friend and they get loud because they're like laughing or whatever, I literally get up and move. I don't want attention on me unless I'm the one making the noise. You're not gonna force people to stare at me because you're being crazy. And she was just like, it was so awkward. And she just stood there looking at him. And it's so funny because one of the people who work at the airport was like, girl, if you don't want him, I will take him. And I was like, yes, sis. I mean, it was just so sweet. She just wasn't prepared for it though. And I would have had the exact same reaction, but it was sweet though. Kalani ends up admitting that she embellished the truth to her sister about Asuelu and him cheating on her. And like, I have a really hard time when people who don't live in the same hemisphere talking about someone else cheated on them. Like, listen, if we don't live in the same country, you didn't cheat on me. We were living our separate lives until we found time to be together. That's what happened. even if we live coast to coast, like, you didn't cheat on me. She ended up telling her sister that Asuelo cheated on her because she was, I guess, upset and wanted sympathy from her family. And what she didn't tell them is that they were technically on a break at that time. So I'm just like, exactly, why do you even know? Why would Asuelo even tell her that he had sex with somebody else? Like, what is that? She made her family not like him because of a weird lie, which makes me believe that the lie is not true. Or the whole thing is fabricated. He actually didn't cheat on her, and she needed a little extra twist to get on this show. Cause like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why the hell would she know about it? They weren't even together for that long. And then again, they were in different hemispheres. Maybe not different hemispheres, but completely different parts of the world. And she's gonna tell her sister that he cheated on her in order to get sympathy from her sister? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't to me. So she's trying to make amends. She's having her and Asuelo stay in an Airbnb for his time there because the sister doesn't want Asuelo at her house at all, and she lives with her sister. She also says that her sister has been like the dad to Oliver, which is their baby. And, you know, it kind of hurts the sister that he's coming in and swooping in. But I'm like, Oliver's only 5 months old. Like, it's not like it's been like 3 years and Asuelo hasn't done anything. And also, like, she ends up mentioning later on in the segment that she needs Asuelo to understand that he's gonna have to help her, that she needs his emotional and financial help. And I'm like, I think he understands that. Like, that's why he's coming to the US, so like to get a job and do all that stuff. But you know he's not gonna be able to get a job right away. And like, why wouldn't he help her? Does he think, like, why wouldn't he help her? As long as she explains to him what the expectations are, I just don't understand why there's so much negativity put on him. Especially after he opens his mouth. That voice that comes out of Asuelo's mouth is not at all what I expected. It's like, I'm so happy to be here in America because I am with my family. How did he father a child? I don't think that his reproductive organs are fully, I mean, I guess they are, but like, that voice, boy, that was worse than Colton from The Bachelorette. Like, not expecting that sound to come out of that man. He's so overwhelmed when he first gets there. Like, he's like, oh, you're driving too fast. The roads are too wide. And I'm a little disappointed in Kalani and her not being aware of what it was going to be like for him. Like, I get a little frustrated when the Americans aren't sensitive to the fact that some of these people are coming from countries where the technology is different or the way that the infrastructure of the city is different, and their reaction to someone being worried about traffic or scared on the road or not knowing how to use something. Like, Asuelo didn't want to put his shoes on when he was in the airport, and she was just like, okay, like looking weird, as opposed to being like, no babe, here we don't walk around without shoes. You got to put your shoes on. You know what I'm saying? Like, be sensitive to it. You know, they get to the house and she uses a code to get in, and he's like, oh, you use a code? And she's like, yeah. Like, duh. And I'm just like, first of all, using a code to get in a house is relatively new to me, but somebody who's like worried about traffic and scared that you're driving too fast, like, you could be like, oh yeah, this is kind of a new technology. Not every house has it. It's like, she's not interested in discovering things with him. He's opening every door in the house, like wondering what these doors contain. And she's like, babe, you don't have to open every door. And I'm like, does she not know him? Does she not know that he grew up in a house with no walls? Why do we know that within the first 5 minutes of meeting him? Like, it's just so weird to me. And that's one of my frustrations. My only frustration and comment about Kalani so far is that I felt that she just wasn't accommodating to Asuelo the way I think she needed to be. And it's also so weird that her entire family thinks that he's using her. Like, he doesn't even seem like he has that spirit in him. I mean, and maybe I can't tell through the TV screen, but like, does anyone else think that he's like there for the visa? Like, he seems just like really doe-eyed and like, oh my God, like deer in the headlights, you know? And when he meets her mom, he's so sweet. He gives her a kiss, like, and it's very warm and opening. I feel like you know, here's what it is. All of the Samoans that I know are very nice people. Even like the gruff, like rah 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 guys, like they're very nice. And so it seems weird that they're suspect of Asuelo. But again, I'm not a part of the culture, so I don't know what it is that her dad is like fearful of. So the mom asks Asuelo what he would like for her to cook tomorrow. And he's just like, I don't know. And I'm just like, yeah, what is he supposed to say, some kind of Samoan cuisine? Or is he supposed to say macaroni and cheese? Because I don't think he eats macaroni and cheese. So it's like, girl, just cook whatever. If your husband can give you some tips on what to make, then make that to make him feel at home, and then make something else that you're really good at making. Sometimes these Americans really bother me with their naivete when it comes to bringing somebody from another country into their home. Like, just explain it to them. Okay, so the next couple that we have are Jay and Ashley. So Jay and Ashley are, again, I don't see anything wrong with them right now. I know Jay seems like a playboy and he's got a lot of womanizing underneath his belt, but he says that he hopes he is ready for Ashley. My only concern is that he's going to probably a very, very non-minority place. He's probably going to a very white city, and that can be very hard for a black person who's used to being in sunshine and around other smiling, happy black people. And also the stigma of possibly getting shot. That's very real. And so he's gonna have to honestly play the Sambo a little bit. They're gonna be like, oh, you know what I mean? They're just gonna be in his face asking him a bunch of questions, and he's not American, so he's not gonna understand or probably be as offended as an American would be. So, I mean, maybe that's one good thing, is that when he has racism thrust upon him, he's not gonna see it as like, oh, they're doing this because they're white. He might not even understand that it's even happening. So I think that is a silver lining in that. But like, girl, I think that he treats her nice though. Like, for the cameras at least, he's very accommodating. He always talked about how he loves her and that he's not using her because he had an opportunity to use somebody and he didn't take it. But he also says it's because she was very unattractive. And so my thought is, like, he could be using Ashley and it's just because she's attractive that he's willing to go through all the rigmarole of it. Like, why not? But my other concern is that she has 2 kids that we have yet to see. Not that we need to see them, TLC, thank you. But like, I just worry, is it gonna be a Luis situation where he walks into a situation not prepared to be a dad? Because that's what she's asking him to do. She then preps him for his interview for the K-1 visa. And, you know, so she's waiting for him to be done and she's nervous, and he comes out and it turns out that he got it and it was good and he's coming to the US. So I am happy for them. I just worry about what his life is going to be like in the US when he gets there. I don't want it to be bad for him, you know? Okay, so the last couple that we're going to talk about today is Lita and Eric. Their whole thing is not going to work. I'm just going to say that right now. They're not going to get to the 90 days. Lita is way too crazy and over the top. He's just so desperate to find somebody. She's 29 years old. She comes to the US with her son, Alessandro, and her sister. Her sister is there to survey the scene to make sure everything is cool. For whatever reason, Eric decides that he is going to have her fly into JFK in New York City when he lives in Wisconsin. So he gets in his car and drives like 19 hours or something crazy to get to JFK to pick her up. And then they stay in Pennsylvania. It's a lot of dumb driving, in my opinion, because he says that New York City is too expensive. I feel like she's probably never heard that. She probably wanted to stay in a really nice hotel, soak up New York City, and then go from wherever else after that. But he's like, no, we're gonna stay in a cabin in Pennsylvania. It's cheaper. So they drive like 4 hours or whatever to Pennsylvania from JFK. They're all exhausted. And they get into this cabin, and she's not impressed with this cabin at all. I think the sister went to school in UK because she has a British accent slightly. So these are educated women who come from a good family, a good wealthy family in Jakarta. So like, why would she come to the US to be poor with Eric? It does not make any sense. She says that she wants to come to the US because her parents are very, very controlling and she wants to get out from underneath them. And she wants to be a doctor in the US. Like, she already went to medical school or whatever. So I'm just like, okay, but why couldn't you find a man that at least isn't divorced and doesn't have kids and is prepared to take on you and your son? She's a princess, honestly, and I don't fault her for any of her spoiled or crazy ways because that's how she was raised. And she made a wrong choice to be with Eric. Her sister even says that when she gets upset or really wants something, she's annoying and becomes a very awful person. And she doesn't think that Eric knows that. And she also says that if their living conditions aren't up to par, she's gonna take her sister and her nephew back to Jakarta. Her parents are also coming in a couple days to check out the scene as well. And I guarantee you they're not gonna like what they see. Not that apartment. Yeah, she has this whole freak out about putting the luggage in the car. And I'm like, what is she talking about? It has to be proper. She says it has to be proper 15 times in a row. And I'm like, oh my God, Lita's gonna get on my nerves. But she is who she is, you know? But she's gonna get on my nerves. And her sister Reina is like, who's gonna help you take care of Alessandro? And she's like, I'm gonna do it myself, and so is Eric. Like, Raina is like, my sister does not understand what she's getting into. Like, she's used to having cooks, she's used to having maids, she's used to having a nanny. Like, you can't go from that to what Eric offers and be okay. You cannot. This is a recipe for disaster, 100%. Also, what's weird, she asks for chicken porridge in the morning, and I'm just like, what is chicken porridge? Like, to be porridge is like oatmeal, and then to add chicken in it is no longer oatmeal. So like, what is chicken? What is chicken porridge? You know, what is that? All right, so that is the end of this episode, you guys. Let me know what you thought of the couples thus far. Who do you love? Who are you not so into? What relationships do you think are gonna make it? Like, let's have a kiki down in the conversation area, down in the comments section. If you like what I do here on this channel and you like to consider becoming a Patreon patron, please click the link down below. Thank you guys so much for rocking with me for this season 6 of 90 Day Fiancé. This is going to be so much fun, and I'm just so excited about it. All right, you guys, remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye. Ooh, girl. So I just finished filming 90 Day Fiancé, my recap on episode 2, season 6. And this is where I ask you guys to go on ahead and follow me on Instagram if you'd like to know a little bit more about my life at Just Call Me Wah. Thank you so much for watching.